13 states allow marijuana to be used for medical purposes. The only requirement is a doctor's recommendation. With that recommendation, patients have access to dispensaries where cannabis is legally sold. We went to one dispensary in Los Angeles where the options run from marijuana-laced cookies to drinks. Take a look. Joanna LaForce has been a pharmacist for 30 years, most of that time spent in traditional medicine. But in 2007, she co-founded the Farmacy, a dispensary that sells marijuana as a medical treatment.
All of the people are here for medical reasons, and we're very careful in how we verify our patients. They need a California ID or a driver's license and their doctor's recommendation.
There are as many as 600 medical marijuana dispensaries like the Farmacy around Los Angeles. They were made legal under California state law in 2003, but they were constant targets of raids by the federal government under the Bush administration. Just recently, President Obama has vowed to end those raids, and that's good news for patients like Scott Babcock.
I'm a pancreatic cancer survivor with recurrence, and it helps me with appetite and sleep.
Judy Eden says she uses marijuana to help treat her anxiety.
You can see it's gorgeous. They're very, very nice, very knowledgeable. There's no secret back room. It's just, I'm not embarrassed to be here.
At this medical marijuana dispensary, they have about 30 varieties of cannabis available on any given day. Here's one called Air Force One. This is an organic blend of cannabis. It's used to treat stress and it's used to treat pain. Let's see what it smells like. I don't think Air Force One has ever quite smelled like this, but it's got a very strong pungent odor. It smells like cannabis. Just like in a restaurant, LaForce and her staff will show clients a menu of the many varieties of cannabis for sale used to treat different symptoms. So there's like Bubba Joe, Mendo Purple, Princess, Third Eye, Air Force One.
Exactly, and when people are familiar with these varieties or the names, then they have a feeling for how it's going to work for them.
But despite all the different varieties available at her store, LaForce says all of them fall into one of two basic types, sativa and indica.
The sativa usually has a higher percentage of THC. It's more of a stimulating, so works really well for depression. It's excellent for stimulating the appetite. So I would, and for other types of psychological ailments, as opposed to indica, which is a more sedating, more kind of full body, really good for inflammation and arthritis.
And for customers who feel uneasy about lighting up and smoking marijuana, LaForce has products for them too. This pharmacy has introduced a line of what they call edibles. These are lollipops that have cannabis in them. They're brownies and cookies, biscotti, chocolates, and chocolate bars. This pharmacy has even introduced their own line of drinks. This is mint green tea, enhanced mint green tea. So there's cannabis inside this. This can basically have the same impact as smoking some cannabis. No doubt, a fair number of people who are watching this are going to say, look, this is basically just kind of a fancy way of getting people stoned.
Every day we have people come in with that same attitude and very skeptical. The more people are exposed to it, and also more people who have family members or friends that have benefited from cannabis, the more the idea of exactly what we're doing, it really is changing.
But that change hasn't come without a fight. Despite recent signs, the Obama administration might be more hands-off when it comes to medical marijuana. Until federal law changes, the fight is far from over. Pot and biscotti, chocolate bars, as you just saw, even mint green tea. That dispensary has an extensive marijuana menu. And supporters say there are many reasons to take pot for medical purposes. As we told you, all it takes is a doctor's recommendation. It's that easy in California. And for many, that's a big part of the problem. Dan Simon reports.
So it's pain, anxiety, insomnia.
Depression.
Dr. Alan Frankel is a so-called pot doc. On a typical day, he says he'll see 13 patients at his Marina Del Rey office and recommend they use marijuana to help them with their various aches and pains.
I'm not trying to get patients stoned. I'm trying to get patients to feel normal.
Instead of a prescription, to obtain medical marijuana, a patient needs a doctor's formal recommendation, a letter. It's how you get inside one of the state's hundreds of dispensaries. You need to be at least 18. Minors can get it if their guardian approves. Dr. Frankel started his practice 3 years ago, after nearly 25 years working as a regular internist.
I think it's the greatest medication I've ever worked with. I really do.
For those who want it, getting access to medical marijuana in California is relatively easy.
Here to sign up for a new patient.
Chris Perez is a typical new patient, complaining of insomnia and depression.
How does marijuana help you?
It calms me down. It eliminates the confusion and the congestion out there.
After a 45-minute appointment, which includes a thorough briefing on the types of marijuana, Dr. Frankel gives him the recommendation.
I'm legal. I can legally do this now in the state of California.
Finding a pot doc in L.A. is like trying to find a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. They're everywhere, in the classifieds and on the web. Dr. Frankel charges his new patients $200. By law, the recommendation can only be good for up to a year. Patients then have to go back to the doctor to get a renewal. It's a system that is also being fueled by the explosive growth of dispensaries. There are more than 600 in Los Angeles alone. To put that number in perspective, there are more dispensaries here than Starbucks, 7-Elevens, and even McDonald's. That's not what architects of the medical marijuana law like Reverend Scott Imler envisioned when California voters passed it in 1996. He says the dispensaries today are little more than dope dealers with storefronts.
That just wasn't the intention of Prop 215. It was to get people off the black market, not to institutionalize the black market.
Even Dr. Frankel estimates that about half of those buying medical marijuana are doing so just to get stoned. He says those users harm the industry and make it difficult for marijuana to be viewed as legitimate medication. At the same time, though, he says there's little doctors can do to combat misuse.
It's true. Will people lie? Yes, they'll lie to get anything. I'm not that concerned about that because what they're just getting is cannabis.
Getting cannabis. At its worst, California has created a system with plain old drug abusers hiding under the cover of state laws. At its best, medication to help people manage their pain. Dan Simon, CNN, Los Angeles.